How is knowledge detrimental? Many people emphasize on the importance of the knowledge, but there is not enough clarified that this very knowledge which we are so passionately seeking can itself become an obstacle, detrimental in our own spiritual growth. So the more you keep this in mind, it helps you to avoid this obstacle or being detrimental. Now, when we say knowledge can be detrimental, it's understood that knowledge without wisdom, when we say knowledge here, it means knowledge without wisdom. So knowledge without wisdom is not only it is useless to you, it is detrimental to you. Now you will get a wholesome picture when you go through the entire pointers that will be presented. Now, the most important thing you must understand, which many don't realize, that knowledge is only a raw material. Knowledge is not the finished product that you're seeking. What you're actually seeking is wisdom. Knowledge is the raw material. Knowledge is the process. The wisdom is the end. Knowledge is that which you seek from an external source, from a guru or a textbook. So you can say knowledge is being tutored. Knowledge is tuition, whereas wisdom is intuition. Wisdom is an inner perception. Wisdom is symbolized by the third eye, the awakening of that inner perception. That's an internal realization, an internal awakening. So knowledge is the process, wisdom is the end, knowledge is the raw material which you gather from external sources. It is useless. It is useless if the knowledge is left as it is. If the knowledge you receive, the knowledge I receive is not processed, if it is not subjected through a certain process of transformation, of a metamorphosis, if it is not subjected through that a gradual advancement through a conscious reflection, you have to allow the knowledge to advance within you, and you allow it to advance within you through the process of reflection. And when that is not done, knowledge is useless. It is said like it's like carrying gold on a mule's back. You can be well versed in geography, you can be well versed in history, you can be well versed in mathematics, you can be well versed in music, you can also be well versed in philosophy and literature. So what will happen? You will become a professor of philosophy. Remember, Swamiji used to tell that I don't want you all to become professors of philosophy, where you get a job or a portfolio in some university, even however celebrated it be, but you should not be a professor of philosophy. So that knowledge is of no use. It's just a burden. Now, coming straight to the point, how does this knowledge become detrimental to you? As we have learned before, that the moment you have knowledge, the first expression of knowledge is a notion of knowing something. So when you know, automatically, unknowingly, you develop a notion of egoism or arrogance. So arrogance comes in. Now again, keep in mind, knowledge is the raw material alone. If it is left unprocessed, it is of no use to you. So we are not only saying it is useless to you, we are also going one step ahead and saying it is detrimental to you. So we have established how it is useless. It's not going to serve you. But detrimental to you, point one, it expresses as intellectual arrogance. And once you have arrogance, you know you're only going to create a conflict with the world. You're not accepted. Even with the knowing, you're not accepted because you have an arrogance, an ego. Second point is very interesting. When you have this knowledge, it creates a great amount of guilt. I see a few eyebrows are rising. How is it possible? How is it possible that guilt comes when there is knowledge? Who want to attempt answering this? You raise your hand. I don't want to. Gayatri Ma.
Hari Om Guruji. Guilt will arise because when you gain knowledge, you start questioning and you will start feeling what all the mistakes we have done or whether what all we are doing it. By that, we start feeling guilty.
Can you explain yourself a little clearer?
Yeah. Supposing like when you come to know of something, like our conscience will start telling us that what you are doing is wrong or what you have done is wrong. So immediately the guilt start feeling because the we are going by the conscience what it says. So that because of the knowledge we are able to listen to that consciousness.
Not consciousness, the conscience. Conscience. All right, you're very true what you're saying. Now, I hope you all got what she's saying. Gayatri Ma, I'm just going to repeat or put it in a, I'm just going to elucidate a little further. That's about all, but you answered correctly. When you have knowledge, what you are also expected is to live by the knowledge or the values you believed in. You appreciate a value, you understand the value of that value, and when you don't live up to your own standards and your own expectations, instantly there's a disparity between what you know and what you live. And it is that disparity that creates a guilt because you are not able to live up to your own standards. It's not what others expect of you. You're not able to live as to what your conscience, what you know is right. You're not able to live up to the standard. You can't live up to a level that you know it is right. I have to exercise. You understand the value of exercise, but you're not able to exercise. Then you feel a sense of guilt. You're not supposed to eat junk food. You know it. And the moment you fall for a temptation, you fall for it, there's a inwardly guilt within. So second is guilt. The third is the moment you have knowledge and no wisdom, you start justifying. You start using the very knowledge to support and justify your own imperfections. So instead of giving yourself a direction to elevate and conquer your weaknesses, you will use the same knowledge to argue and justify and support your own imperfections. So it's a danger in it because you start justifying and supporting your own drawbacks. Point 4, the moment you have knowledge and no wisdom, you start assuming a false sense of perfection. Since you know it well, you think you have reached that state. In fact, I know many people who claim themselves to be already realized long ago. They actually believe they have attained, they are actually in a very high spiritual state. If at all you question them, they say, no, I may not have realized, but I'm almost on the verge of it. But if nobody questioned them, they call themselves as Mahagurus. Yeah, they are there. The problem with knowing is, the problem with knowledge is, you start believing in a state where you don't belong to. So there's a false sense of perfection, a false sense of knowing. Point 4. Point 5, the moment you have knowledge, how it's detrimental to you is you start unsettling others. Because the moment you know something, you become very vociferous. You start lecturing, you start sermonizing, you start advocating others because you're not able to contain that knowledge within. There's a certain amount of childish excitement you have. You start lecturing others as to what they should do. And in that, you rupture not only your own mental balance, you start disturbing others as well. So it's not that it's detrimental to you end of the day, because you're rupturing your relationship with your near and dear. Point. And the point, ma? Which point, Gayatri ma? Five sonna ilya? Now sixth. Okay. So what was the fifth point I said just now?
Unsettling others.
You go about
unsettling others.
Go about unsettling others. A point came as a flash and it left. So hope I can get hold of the flash. When you have knowledge, you can identify faults with others, but you will not be able to identify your own faults. That's point 6. So as you're taking note, I am also taking note. So there's no difference between you and me. I said, we're all in the same journey. So when you have knowledge, you will have the ability to gauge others and assess others. In a way, you know where others are going wrong. But with all the knowledge, you will not know where you're going wrong. So what is the use of the knowledge when you don't know where you're going wrong? Is it of any use? It's absolutely useless. And with the notion that not knowing you're wrong, and you think you're right. Go back to the earlier point I said, you have a false sense of perfection. You think you already know it. You think you already attained that state. So not knowing your fault is one thing. Thinking you're perfect is another thing. It's another level of imperfection. Another level of ignorance. So point 6 aayirtha? 6 points, huh?
6 points.
Yes. The 7th point, when you gain knowledge and no wisdom, it breeds tamas. How does it breed tamas? Any idea? Hariji, there's something in that smile of yours. So we need to know. We need to unfold that smile and
No, when we have knowledge, we feel that, and you get a pleasure, and you get a joy out of that knowledge. And then we feel that is the end in itself. So we don't go further, because you are enjoying that knowledge, and it ends with that knowledge.
So tamas, how do you say that? How do you relate that to tamas?
That you don't strive further. There ends the thing.
There it becomes, you develop an attitude of complacency.
Complacency.
You think you've already achieved it. So
Yeah.
you don't realize that the knowledge is just a part in the puzzle. It is not the solution.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you realize that knowledge is only a part. It is not the solution to your problem.
Yeah.
But without understanding that knowledge is a part and not the solution, you're creating a knowledge itself as a problem.
Yeah.
That's what we're analyzing, isn't it? So rightfully said, Hariji, so knowledge breeds tamas. It ends in itself. It destroys it. And anything that doesn't help you evolve, it stagnates. It smells foul. There's nothing pleasant about it. Now, I wouldn't want to say above all, but a very important point is not understood or known is, as we understand, knowledge is an antidote for ignorance, isn't it? Ignorance is what that needs to be combated. And if you want to combat ignorance, you need knowledge. Now, just like you need medicine to combat disease. If I am diseased, I go to a doctor or I need to administer medicine. Now, what is the most important aspect that is being violated, being flouted, and people are paying a hefty price of it in the context of the example? If you think along the example, the answer is in the question. What is the mistake everybody is making? That yes, medicine is an antidote for disease, exactly the same way knowledge is an antidote for ignorance, and yet everybody is flouting and nobody realizes that where they are faltering. What is that mistake? What is it that needs to be taken care of? Hariji will not be given the access. Vijama, no giving access to Hariji. Hariji, you must, just because you change your name doesn't mean we can't recognize you. You may call yourself Galaxy M30, M31, whatever you want. You can go out of space also. You can be in the galaxy, we'll recognize you there also. So please come into our hemisphere. No, I just want others to, you may have, I know you have an answer, but let me get others thinking and going. So the question, Inna Ushama? No, yeah, medicine takes care to ensure you recover from your illness. But what is the important thing that is that you almost take it for granted and you're not mindful of it and you make a mistake? Yeah, Ushama.
Okay. Namaste, Guruji.
Namaskaram.
We should, first of all, ensure that we don't fall sick. We should take due care to, take all the precautions or all the necessary exercise or whatever it is to not to fall sick as much as possible.
Yeah. Considering that ignorance is already there, we need knowledge to combat it. So I'm just taking an example to convey that as knowledge dispels ignorance, medicine counters disease.
Okay.
But what is the important element in medicine which is also akin to knowledge?
It should be taken regularly. It should be, all the rules of regarding
I'm sure we don't want to take medicine throughout our life, no?
No, temporarily. And we should also allow our body also to do its own self-healing or...
All right, I get what you're saying. Anybody else? Tinkima is saying no self-medication or over-medication. Guru is the right doctor. Enga Tinkima? Solungo Tinkima. Boliye. Tamil समझते हैं?
हाँ जी, तमिल तो बिल्कुल नहीं समझते, तेलुगु भी नहीं समझते, तेलुगु रादू, इंग्लिश, हिंदी, पंजाबी चलती है।
पंजाबी हमें नहीं आता है।
अच्छा, तो फिर
इंग्लिश में चला लेंगे।
ठीक है, ठीक है।
हाँ माँ।
Mistake we make is, I think, that either we self-medicate, because after so many years, like, you know, we think, yeah, I know my body well, this worked for me last time, so it's okay. But I really don't know the intricacies. And often we self-medicate or we over-medicate. Doctor says take it for 3 days. So we say, no, I'll be extra careful and take it for 5 days, where it may not be required. So I think, like we consult a doctor, then in this case also, the Guru's guidance is necessary. And as you once mentioned to me, which I'm bringing up in this context, the length of the discourse is kept for an hour and 15 minutes so that we are fully present, and we should not overdo it by, you know, attending for 3 hours at a stretch or something like that. So I really thought about that a lot. So now I don't do that anymore.
Appreciate. Really appreciate.
And even my self-study reflection also, you said, now don't carry on. Because as you very rightly said, you know, when we start on this journey, we are so excited, we're learning so many things. There's a bit of self-introspection also. And in that excitement, we begin to think that everything else is a waste of time. This is what I must focus on. And then there is that, what is it called? Information overload. And, you know, so it's like I see a buffet and I want to taste even a spoon of everything. I cannot digest it. So like that, it's better to take small quantities, enjoy it, and leave that motichur laddu for the next time, I think.
That the frustration is building. The motichur laddu, it's been so long, but desire is not fulfilled yet. What is this, ma?
There's no desire. That is a surprising point. Last time it
No,
came
in you there is no desire, but you have planted desire in us. It's not fulfilled yet. That is what I'm openly complaining.
Because that's something you relate to now with reference to me. That's why.
Fair enough. In fact, your argument is perfectly right, and it resonates very well with a couple of others. Also have mentioned the same thing. Vasantama and Ashama have correctly clarified. When we talk of knowledge and ignorance and medicine and disease, the medicine itself becomes poisonous. Like most medicines have poison written on them, because if it is not administered in the right dosage, the very same medicine can kill you, can destroy you. And you need to consult a doctor, a specialist. You need to surrender to their knowledge and wisdom, rather than, as rightly said, that self-medication. You can't self-administer thinking that you know what your body needs and how you can treat its apparent ailments, and do a lot of unseen damage. And this ignorance is rampant in the spiritual field, rampant. As I'm saying this, all of you are victims of it, and all of you are not being mindful of this advice. And I'm glad you have taken seriously what at some stage we had a conversation. I must have mentioned to you, because when I heard something, I said a point to bring it up for your consideration. I can't enforce my views on anyone. It's just that it's an advice given. A doctor can also tell you don't do this, but then it's up to you, you know. So this proportion is being, nobody cares. And why nobody cares is because you have an easy access to this knowledge. And because you have access to this knowledge, you don't know, first and foremost, you don't know what knowledge you're taking. I'm not even talking of the dosage. Do you know whether it's the right knowledge to read? We have been told during our early studies, the spiritual sadhana, when we started studying, we were told not to read certain commentaries because they will mentally unsettle you. You will not be able to be prepared the necessary grounding. You need the right grounding, right foundation. And there are people who will unsettle you. And I find those books, 90% of you will have those books in your libraries. 95% of libraries will have those books, which I have never gone anywhere near them. I've read later on, knowing well where they're going wrong, but that's not my point to sit and correct where the others are wrong. It's just to ensure I don't lose my focus and track. So just like you are dabbling with medication just because you have access to, you're dabbling with this scriptural literature just because you have access to. So you do not know what books you're reading. You do not know in what dosage you're reading as well. How much to read, how much knowledge is required. No idea. Is just, as rightly said, buffet. You're just giving yourself an overload of knowledge. Have we not told before, the proportion of knowledge vis-a-vis reflection must be 30% to 70%, or you may say 20% to 80%. That must be the proportion. Means 20% or 30% knowledge, 70% of the time is spent on trying to make sense of what you have learned or heard. When you flout this percentage, what's happening? Rajima, what will happen if you flout this percentage?
You continue to remain confused, and your knowledge is not
No, you're
turning.
no confused. You are very clear. With the amount of knowledge you have, you're very clear. You become a guru.
The knowledge doesn't transform into wisdom, which will transform into an experience.
Correct. It will remain as mere information, and all the other things which all the 7 points we mentioned will start reflecting in you, because you're not allowing the knowledge to reach its desired end, which is wisdom.
Yes, Guru.
So just collecting raw material and just doing nothing with it. You're not allowing to process it. You want fabric, but you have purchased the best machinery in the world. You have got the best cotton in the world. You have got the best men who can process this, but yet everything is just lying there in the warehouse. There's nothing, no fabric coming at the end of it, because you're not put through the process of the machinery. Only raw material you're acquiring and hoarding in huge barns. No use of merely acquiring and receiving this knowledge. So sense of value means the right knowledge. Sense of proportion means the right dosage. These two is what a right guru or a doctor will advocate you, keeping your personality in mind. What I advise one is not that same advice other person receives. It's not a standard booklet you can use and say, I can follow it. If it was easy, you don't need gurus, you don't need lectures, you don't need anybody to tell you. Pick up that booklet, you're done for life, and you can cure yourself. That's the damage people are doing. Nobody is there to correct as well. Sadly so. Nobody is correcting. Hariji?
When we take the medicine, we must also be aware of the side effect of the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
That is applicable in the consumption of knowledge too.
See, if a doctor gives you certain strong antibiotics, he will give you, there will be certain acidity, there will be certain other effects. He'll say, make sure you take this. A doctor will know that. So
Okay.
a guru will, that is what proportion is, no?
Yeah. Okay.
If you just take strong antibiotics without any to counter those effects, then you will do damage to yourself. That's why you need a doctor. Similarly, a guru will tell you only this much of knowledge. You do this much of bhakti. You must do this much of karma, this much of seva. This is required. That is required. Read this works. Don't read these books. You know, you as the doctor would say, only have this tablet after your meal, not before meal. Huh? It'll only work well after meal. Your body will absorb better only after meal. Now, why? You may question. There's an answer for that, but if you don't be mindful of that, then it will not work. But if you self-administer, then we are inviting trouble.
Yeah.
Isn't it, Jay?
Okay.
Okay. And lastly, we must understand knowledge is dangling in between two ends. What are the two ends? You're lost in no man's land. Knowledge is dangling precariously between two ends. And what are the two ends that you're dangling in between? What are the two ends? Vasantama, in the statement you may have never come across in all the lectures you keep listening. Gayatri Ma, in the statement anywhere you heard? I myself never heard, so how will you hear it? And Vasantama?
It is either you don't know anything or you know too much.
That I was told. Not really. What are the two extremities that you're precariously dangling? Just to give you a clue, you're safe on both those ends. You're quite safe. Extremities, you're safe. But in between, in the context, knowledge is detrimental, dangerous. It is useless. In between.
You're in total ignorance or you have attained wisdom. You're between.
Correct. That is what we say. It is safer in ignorance. It is very safe in wisdom. But the problem is the transition phase is knowing and not doing anything about it. Even if you are doing something to the knowledge with reflection, you are safe. But if you are not doing anything to the knowledge, that's the most dangerous phase. Because as they say, ignorance is bliss, Ilyama. I did not know. So when you're ignorance, what will happen?
You don't realize you to have.
Don't realize. And what will happen if you don't realize?
You're peaceful.
You're peaceful. Why are you peaceful? Because your conscience doesn't prick. I did not know. So you're all right.
You don't know that you do not know. That knowledge.
Yeah, you're ignorant.
There are so many things we need to know. We don't know.
Yeah, but that ignorance in a way protects you, isn't it?
Yes.
You feel okay because you did not know. Now having known, what happens? Instantly you're expected to live up to the standards. So it is so all of us have made the mistake of walking out of ignorance. Now, how many of us are safely reach the shore of wisdom? I do not know. How many of us are putting the right effort to convert this knowledge into wisdom? I do not know. Because you have to make that assessment yourself. Whom am I to make that assessment? Who am I to make that judgment? My job is to tell what the truth is. But you are dangling precariously in between ignorance and wisdom. Neither can you go back to ignorance, nor can you expedite your process to wisdom. This is the time you are in no man's land. It's like the ship has left the shore and it is in the deep waters of the ocean, and the ocean is very turbulent. You wish you didn't venture out into the open sea. Or you are very safe, you reach the other shore. You're neither here nor there. This is the no man's land. So this is I would only say an insight. If you apply yourself, there can be a few more pointers. It's not exhaustive, but I think we have enough to make us, to convince us that knowledge is detrimental if it is not honored. If you don't honor the knowledge that you receive, and if you abuse the knowledge, it's only going to be detrimental. It's going to hurt you badly. I think it's already hurting you. You do not know it. That's my take. You got to be very, very sharp to pick up these strong advices and do something about it. Otherwise, if you're just casual about it, may God be with you. Blessings with thee. That's all I'd say. But how do you ensure that knowledge doesn't become detrimental? How do you ensure that? The diseases are many. The solution is only one. Huh? So how do you counter all this? Only one solution. Who can answer this? Vasantama is saying, making it your own. Welcome is saying surrender. Very welcoming answer. Attach yourself to the higher. Nothing is mine, all is thine. Very poetic. But then, how does it help you to deter the detrimental elements if you hang on with mere knowledge? You got to deter. You got to be careful that you don't fall a trap. The only way. Now, putting into practice, the moment you're trying to put into practice means it is not still a part of you. You must understand, practicing this knowledge is effortless. A lot of effort is put in before you live it. Many people know it and don't live it. But knowing and living, if you have to live it, there is a phase that nobody does it. And that is the exercise of known as Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. You got to do that exercise of self-reflection, study and contemplation of the ideas, which is known as manana, which is done in the early hours of Brahma Muhurtam, in 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. So the real transformation of knowledge into wisdom only happens between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Now you may disagree with the doctor, that is your choice. But the doctor says only 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. I'm available. You can't argue with the doctor, why are you only available at 4 a.m.? I said, you don't come. I'm not telling you to come. I'm only available. You want appointment? Come at 4:30 in the morning. So the wisdom is acquired only in the early hours. Like in the olden days, even now, when you go to the village side, they churn the curd. Isn't it? When do they churn the curd? Before sunrise, isn't it? So the cream that they gather starts melting if the sun rises in the heat. So it's all churned and collected and kept in the pots of cold water or in the refrigerator. So you gather the wisdom only when you churn your intellect with the acquired knowledge only between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. So if you are not doing it, Understand you're already a victim of it. You may not know it. As I've said, I most likely see you all victims of it. And I'm telling that with all my love and concern. Lots of love. Loads of love. Correct, Hariji? Lots of love, loads of love. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of love to you all. You do it or not. How can I compel you to do it? You got to do it. It may sound very, you may say, sir, give us another alternative, What is this very, very, so strict you are? It's not my opinion, it's not my creation. It's how the Shastra, this is how life is. Sattva only manifests between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Rajas manifests for 12 hours, from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. The next 10 hours, 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. is tamas. Now your sattva is that determines your spiritual growth. You want to grow sattvic, you must be doing the sattvic activity. You can't get up in the morning at 4 o'clock and cut vegetables. Your sattva will not improve. Your kitchen chores will be done. You can't get up at 4 o'clock and sweep your house. House becomes clean. You can't get up and put your laundry. Laundry will be done. But get up and do swadhyaya. Hariji.
Guruji, what does it mean, Swadhyaya? Is it studying or analyzing my own self?
I think we have clarified this during one of the sessions where we spoke about the process of reflection.
Okay.
I'm sure you have purview to that. You are part of that. So it is trying to examine the knowledge, question it to understand, first of all, technically what they are saying, and then put it against the backdrop of where you are, so that you can start seeing reflecting the knowledge to your life, to your experiences, to your reactions, to your responses, so that you are able to gain clarity how this knowledge can transform your perception to life. Because there is a direct connection of the knowledge to your life, because this is knowledge of life. In order to relate the knowledge to your life, you must understand the knowledge. So you must break it down. And you break it down, say Guru breaks it down to a certain level, but beyond a point, you have to chew the knowledge, isn't it? You have to chew it. That chewing is reflection. See, the mother may smash up the food, mash it up, and put it in a small morsel in the mouth of a child, but the child has to still go through the process of little chewing and swallowing. The mother can't do that for the child. So that process of little chewing the knowledge is reflection. And when you do that in doses, you will gain enough wisdom. And while you're doing it, you are actually relating every aspect of the knowledge to your life. That's the reason wherever possible, we bring in the concept of pure philosophy, applied philosophy, don't we?
Yeah.
So that it has an application to your life. And that the Guru is doing now. But what you got to do at that time, you do it for yourself. You got to do it yourself. And when you do this day in and day out, whether you like it or not, you got to do it day in and day out. And then you're gathering wisdom. There will be enough wisdom where you don't fall a trap. All what we're discussing now is how not to fall a trap into just getting carried away by knowledge and then falling a prey, because it's detrimental, deadly, dangerous. It is so dangerous you do not know. You do not know. We don't realize what we are dealing. It is safer not knowing. Safest is not knowing this knowledge. We have already made the mistake of venturing into the open sea. Now you are open to the turbulent winds, and you don't have the strength to manage the ship. What will happen? Ship will wreck a matter of time, torn into bits and pieces. That's the power of the mighty sea. So you must watch every step, how much knowledge I'm giving in, what am I giving in, what am I putting in. Just because available, just don't keep pumping in knowledge into your system, which should not. It may say, no, I don't have arrogance, I don't have this, but it may, out of the 7 points, it may start expressing in some form. There is that. Now, I'll conclude by just a quick recap. Anyone who can tell me all the 7 points? Jayama, have you taken down the 7 points? Just say thumbs up, yes or no. Okay. Who else who has taken up? Oh, 9 points, huh? Okay. Vasantama, can you quickly? I didn't take the as a pointer, but yeah.
It develops egoism, arrogance,
Okay.
guilt.
Point 2.
Second two. Third one, you start justifying.
Yes.
And then you start assuming a false sense of knowing.
Okay.
That's the fourth one. Fifth one, you start unsettling others.
Okay.
6, you'll only identify others' faults. You will not identify your own faults.
Correct.
And 7th is it breeds tamas.
All right.
8th, I don't know if it's 8th, knowledge is an antidote for ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And 9th is it is hangs precariously between ignorance and wisdom.
Okay. But I think the 7 points,
8 and 9.
8 and 9 is just explaining where you're going wrong. But the 7 points are actually how knowledge is detrimental to you. Sapta, sapta. I don't know how it came up to, but everything is sapta. The 7 sages, the 7 continents, the 7 oceans, everything is 7. So even this, how it can be detrimental to you also is 7.